Welcome to the Secret Job Society podcast, where we interview people with unique or little-known professions. Join in as we peel back the curtain on these niche, fascinating roles and the humans behind them, showing how they found meaning and purpose in truly unconventional ways.
My curiosity came from well, I know the paths to all of those, types of professions, but how did you get there? How did we get there? And even from my own personal experience, I was supposed to be a dentist.
Okay.
Yeah, I have always had a love for science and math and when I learned the scientific method in 5th grade, I thought that was the most incredible thing in the world.
Yeah.
Testing one variable to see how,
Well, the periodic table of elements was my woke
that was your
moment to science. I just felt like, wow, this is so awesome. And, it was kind of probably somewhat of a nerd phase. And I got made fun of for bringing these things up. But I didn't care. I was like, the periodic table of elements are awesome.
Yeah, look how organized.
Yeah, it's so cool. We got all these elements, that exist. So that was my inroad into okay, science is cool.
Yep, exactly. And I thought that because I was good at science and math and that I was in the AP classes and getting the 4.0 GPAs, that I had to do something in that route because that's what made the most sense and that's what is that's what most people know about. So from probably junior year of high school until junior year of college, I was having the intention on being a dentist. But as you know, because you obviously had to be pre-med, you are in the medical school and in the dental schools in the summer when you're not in school, shadowing and learning and doing all of these programs. And when I was exposed to the world of dentistry, I hated it.
Yeah.
I hated it. But everything on my resume said that no, this is what you're pegged to do. And so that's when the disconnect came. I'm oh my gosh, my ideals and my reality are not matching up right now. And it's causing anxiety and tension. I feel like I'm letting my family down because I'm supposed to be the first doctor. This is what I've told everyone. We've already had the parties and,
Well, it takes a lot of courage to follow what's on the inside and not do what is norm to others or something that is seen as, doctors are always seen as, you're guaranteed to have a good living and money, but not everyone can back down after it was your apparent destiny. But if it doesn't feel right, it takes courage to move the other way.
Totally.
So, wow.
Yeah. So I actually didn't know. I think that's what caused a lot of the anxiety is the not knowing because I felt like I always had a plan.
Sure.
And so I'm well, I know for sure I don't want to be a dentist, but I'm supposed to have my life figured out. I'm 20. I have to have everything figured out.
And you were a very good student. I didn't know that. Not that it matters, but especially in the optics of family. And then I'm sure parentals brag about it too.
Oh
so now that adds pressure that, you were a 4.0 student and taking all these APs. And ironically, I wasn't, by the way. I was more average Joe type student. I don't know if that's average Joe's now, but I was not. I would gun. Yeah. And I was very good at doing certain things. But grades were okay. You know, probably upper 25%, but not any top tier. But I always remember this other physician telling me, what do they call the person who was the bottom of the class graduating medical school? What do they call them after they graduate? Doctor.
Okay. All right. Because they're not asking which.
No, it doesn't matter. As you graduated, you're still going to be called
That's so true.
Yeah.
That's so true.
Yeah.
So I was experiencing such a I felt like the world was just crumbling around me because I didn't have things figured out. And hindsight is 2020. We don't need to have everything figured out at that point, but that was a really big deal for me. And so I was super stressed. I was self-medicating with Xanax at the time because also my major was psychology. And so I'm learning about depression and anxiety. And now I'm feeling shameful because I have this knowledge of these things, but because I have this knowledge, I feel like I shouldn't be experiencing.
Well, your parents told their friends that you were going to be a dentist, and
Mhm.
now in your mind, it doesn't feel right. So what do you do?
What do I do?
That's a lot to handle for a mind and body of a 20-year-old. It's way too much
Mhm.
pressure, and you put it on yourself, and
Mhm.
I'm sure others put that type of pressure on themselves. It's totally unnecessary. Why are we
right?
so mean to
I
ourselves?
know! It makes no sense. Like, we
Yeah.
should be like
Yeah.
the nicest people to ourselves.
Yeah. Well, now look at you. I mean, now we're praising the fact that you didn't do it because
Yeah.
you went with what felt correctly.
Totally.
So your destiny lies within,
Mm.
not with what your parents, friends, or other friends
Exactly.
think for you. It has
Always.
to come from within.
Yeah. And it took going through that I'm so grateful for my experience.
Of course.
So like, as I am, I'm self-medicating at the time, and I'm looking for solutions to feel well
Mm-hmm.
that don't involve drugs.
Sure.
And so a friend of mine, like prior to this, saw that I was going through a stressful situation, and she was like, you should get a massage to like deal with the stress of what you're going through. And I'm like, what is a massage going to do for me?
Yeah.
Like, I only see a massage of people rubbing oil, and it just didn't seem like whatever. So I ignored her suggestion. But then it was getting to a point in my addiction where like I was having like physical effects from self-medicating, and I was having a lot of trembles and shaking, and
Yeah.
withdrawals.
Yes.
And I'm getting on Google, and I'm like, what can I do to help with the physical effects of this? And massage therapy kept coming up. And I'm like, I remember Janae saying something about massage a couple of weeks ago. So I'm like, well, at this point I have nothing to lose. Book the massage.
Where was it at?
I don't want to say.
Okay.
No, I'm just kidding. It was at Massage MB.
Okay, nothing wrong.
Yeah, it was at Massage MB.
You're not going to go to 0 to the 4 Seasons,
right?
And sometimes the best massages I have are not at the super expensive places. So, okay.
Those little hole in the wall sometimes are like amazing.
It's the masseuse, right? That's
massage
what matters.
therapist.
Massage therapist. Sorry. See? Okay.
So, wow. When I got that massage, it was life-changing. It was the first time that I had ever felt okay, well, hopeful, without any sort of substance.
Mm-hmm.
And I'm like, this is like, my body's doing this. Like, this is not from outside of me. This is something that's going on within me. I need to know what's going on. So I probably annoyed the massage therapist by talking the entire time. Well, why are you touching this? And I feel it here. And why is my breath slowing down in my heart?
Yeah.
And
you were hyper aware.
Totally. It just opened the door for everything you know me as today. Wow. I discovered after that session.
And how old were you?
It was 2017. How long ago was 2017?
Let's say 8 years.
So I was 22, 23.
Wow.
Yeah. Also, I knew immediately when I got into massage school that I wanted to start more broad and then niche down into something more specific. Had no idea I would be doing it with my feet, but it was a natural progression in my career. I was doing a lot of hands-on work, and the type of body work that I was receiving for self-care was ashiatsu and Thai massage. And in those types of modalities, they use their feet, which you get a lot. For me, in my experience, you get longer lasting results from a foot because the foot is such a broad tool. It covers a wider surface area of the body. And especially with the work that I do, it's called Sarga Bodywork. You come at the tissue in kind of like an oblique angle with a sustained pressure. So you're almost shearing the tissue, and it's also engaging the nervous system. So you're putting your body into a state of rest and digest.
Yeah.
And so the reason why I wanted to work with my feet, one, to save my hands, but also because of how impactful it was on like my emotional well-being because of the impact that it was having on the nervous system.
Yes.
The only issue with the type of barefoot massage I was receiving was you have to have these like large wooden bars installed into your studio. And I knew at the little location that I was renting was not going to be my final place. It was going to be a whole hassle. So I was looking for an alternative modality that included the Barefoot, but didn't have the hardware. And so I'm in a whole bunch of like massage therapist Facebook groups, and I come across this woman standing gracefully on a table, and she has these silk scarves wrapped around her body, and she's poised, and I see her like gliding her foot along someone's back, and I look at it, and I'm immediately like, that's it. That's what I've been looking for. But the class was a year ago by the time I'm seeing this post. So I go online to the Sarga website, and I find my original instructor, Amy, who lives in Hawaii, is teaching a class in Joshua Tree, California.
Okay.
And so I go in 2022 was the first class that I took with her.
Wow.
And oh my gosh, it was everything that I needed to be. The slow, deep, sustained pressure, not only for like the physical components and restructuring of how we hold our body in space, but like I said, being able to sink down into rest and digest, just
parasympathetic. Yeah.
Oh my gosh. Yeah. So
wow.
That's
I mean, it makes
what we
sense.
do.
The nerves are all over your body and they're all like next to one another, but you probably have to have some degree of pressure that is easier with the foot to get to that.
Totally. And a lot of people describe it as feeling like, you know how when you get to the end of the tube of the toothpaste, so you got to take it from the end and squeeze it to the top. That's what they describe the experience as.
It's very releasing.
Yeah. Yep.
So you found your purpose at age 22, 23?
Because I found presence. And presence provided clarity.
Yes.
And the clarity provided purpose.
Wow.
Yeah.
That's pretty incredible. I mean, this might inspire others to become a massage therapist. Not a masseuse, but a massage therapist. I mean, it's people get it wrong, but that's okay.
Yeah.
People don't always understand these odd or secret jobs. And some of them are not secret, but just people might look at it up or down depending on their own optics. But I mean, it just proves we all have a journey.
Yeah.
And I have a journey too.
Yeah, I want to hear about it.
Sure. So, I mean, child of immigrant parents, immigrated from Iran before the Islamic Revolution. So the purpose really to my parents immigrating was 100% to go to school. And my father got his PhD. My mother got her master's degree and honestly kind of just stayed.
Yeah.
And of course would visit Iran back and forth. And by the way, there was always political turmoil my whole life. So that is all I've known. And, but, you know, as I was in high school, parents kind of suggested, but never forced, even though child of immigrant parents, I feel typically will steer towards professional fields because professional fields in a way is a type of salvation. It's a way of moving up in society in a guaranteed manner. That you're an immigrant, you don't speak the language. How do I make it? Well, I can make it by getting into medicine. So this is observational. I don't have statistics, but I've seen a lot more. And minority is not the best word, but let's just say not necessarily typical types of individuals that are vanilla flavored, if you will, that are in medicine. And I think a lot of it stems from that. But my parents did not put pressure. It was a suggestion. And I said, you know what? I'm going to explore this suggestion by volunteering in a hospital.
Wow.
And at the time we lived in Southern Illinois and I volunteered at Memorial Hospital in Belleville, Illinois.
Wow.
Very nice hospital. And I started off doing just very simple things. I volunteered a little bit in transport. I volunteered on a nurse ward. And I was like, wow, I just like the environment.
Okay.
The environment is cool. Of course, I'd walk by the doctor's lot and there was the latest Mercedes SL 500 with the top down and the roll bar up. And I was just like, that's the life, you know? So I have to admit that that was in me, though. It wasn't from my parents saying that this is the path towards money. But I thought that, okay, this would at least have some degree of guarantee that getting into medicine would kind of lead towards a better, stable life filled with Mercedes Benz. So, I mean, I can't lie,
Not
that you're
mad
young.
about that.
Yeah, I was like 16, 15. I volunteered starting at age 15 and really went through from latter parts of high school. And then once I was getting ready to apply for college, I didn't even know what major to pick. My dad is a microbiologist, PhD.
Oh, cool.
And he's like, well, what do you want to pick? I don't know. He's like, okay, I'll just pick microbiology because it kind of somewhat falls. I just knew I wanted to be pre-med.
Yep.
So my father gets a position in 1999 and an academic position. And whole family moves here to Phoenix. And by this point, I'm starting college, Arizona State, of course, and Devil for life. And god dang, man, the pre-med route was awful. Very turbulent, very competitive, very cutthroat. And, I was not the best student.
Yep.
I wasn't the worst student. I was kind of somewhere in the middle, depending on the class. And just, really struggled. I really struggled. I struggled with biology, which is a complete mistake for anyone listening in your pre-med. Start with chemistry, not with freaking biology. But I started with biology and it was very rough.
Yeah.
So I complained to some other people that were like friends of my parents, and they would just laugh at me that this is only the beginning. But somehow I blocked that out of my mind. And so I go through med school, or I go through undergrad, again, doing okay. I just very dead set on wanting to become a doctor. And so 2000 and, was it? I think it was 2000 and the summer of 2000 or 2001. I can't exactly remember. But we were visiting family in Iran. And that summer we went on this incredible day trip out to this very remote village area in northeastern Iran called Kalat-e-Nadir. Rivers, mountains, anyway, incredible. We rented this minibus, as they call it, like a 20-passenger type van. Had the most incredible day ever.
Yeah.
And on our way back, there was a car that was changing lanes, passing another car, but only one light was working, not both. And anyway, our driver didn't see that. He thought it was a motorcycle. So he didn't naturally swerve. Hits this car, and we fall into this like ditch type of, like, we fall not quite off a cliff, but off the road. And my cousin died. He got trapped under the minibus. And my brother had a massive degloving injury on his right arm. And just other family had injury, but I mean, nothing was worse than these two.
Of course.
So I felt so helpless at that moment. And I knew that nothing would break me from becoming a physician. I didn't care what.
Yeah.
And so I struggled, so I was determined. So that was like, there was no breaking me at that point. I didn't care what you threw at me, and a lot got thrown my way. I struggled with the medical college admission test. I didn't do very well. I took it 3 times. I just always kind of standardized testing, struggled.
Yep.
And so applied to U of A. And they didn't accept me. Devastation, right?
Of course, yes.
I got waitlisted at some other schools and then applied again the subsequent year. And in between this, I got married. So I was young at the time, 21. Wife was 19. And so, I applied again and didn't get in again. But this time I was like, I kind of didn't want to get in because I wanted my wife to catch up to me with finishing her courses. And then we said, the hell with this. We're going to go to the Caribbean and they'll give us an opportunity and the two of us can be students together. And we went all through med school together. We couples matched in town in Phoenix at Banner Health. And the rest, I guess they say, is history, but it was a massive, massive struggle to get through, and then to get through the United States medical licensing exams.
Oh, of course.
And it was crazy. So, but from there, I decided on internal medicine, which is basically doctor for adults, non-surgical.
Okay.
And after I finished my training, I kind of wanted more.
Mm-hmm.
And in 2012, I graduated internal med. And then I decided to do a chief residency in quality and patient safety. And it was kind of like, what is that? What is quality in medicine? Like, no one really kind of understood it well.
Mm-hmm.
There was a lot of notion back then that we make lots of errors in medicine and quality. We need to be like the airline industry where you don't make errors and things are safe. So this kind of whole field of quality and safety blossomed at that time.
Interesting.
And I was there really at the time when it was getting going. I don't think I was there at the very beginning, but as it was getting going, I was there. And so I always found myself in the clinical informatics department modifying things within the electronic health record system.
Wow.
And so over the course of that year, did all sorts of work in the quality domain, patient safety domain. And at the time, the chief of staff of the hospital I was training at basically told me we had this opportunity to be a chief health informatics officer. And the position was vacant for years and you have to apply and, may the best person win. And so I was like, hell yeah.
Right.
I always try to go the path less traveled, and my field in medicine, although internal medicine is more broad, but I chose the broadness knowing that eventually I would probably get into something else.
Mm-hmm.
So 2012, finish chief residency, 2013, apply and get this position as a chief health informatics officer.
Wow.
Right out of training.
Uh-huh.
And 6 months later, we had our first clinical informatics board exam. So it became a board specialty. So instead of doing cardiology or GI, you could be a clinical informaticist.
I had no idea.
Yeah, people don't know.
I had no idea. I kind of thought you made all this up.
Yeah, no, it's a real specialty. It's sponsored by two sponsored institutions. One is the American Board of Pathology. The other is American Board of Preventative Medicine. So those are your two inroads. You can board certify. So that was 2013. 2 years after that, we started was basically the 5th clinical informatics fellowship program in the country. I was the first associate program director and then eventually became the program director. And I was in that for a number of years. So I was involved in the training.
Wow.
I was pretty much there from the gate of that. And just to explain to you, clinical informatics, clinical obviously being clinical setting, healthcare setting, but informatics really is the X of information, the science of information, and how we use information to make decisions and or optimize healthcare delivery. And the most simple type of decision support that I always bring an example of is a map application on your phone. When you put an address on a map, it gives you a bunch of different choices with different routes and calculated time to get to your destination. So it's a decision support tool you use very frequently to understand what's your ETA, how long will it take for me to get where I want to get. So we just take that, add the clinical component, and we can help doctors make decisions on lab orders, imaging orders, coding. So it's really become my career. And I love it. I still do some patient care, about 10% time. So 10, 15%, just depends, typically about a weekend a month. I love patient care, no regrets, but I've pretty much been an administrator my entire career.
I think that is so interesting. I think that's why we also connected too, because when you typically think of a physician, you think of someone who is like hands-on, wiping the runny noses. And so when you were telling me that you are in informatics and your patient load is not what I had this idea of it, I was like, I need to know more. Yeah. Very cool.
And now we're pretty much in AI. We're the docs that are working on AI application for healthcare. And that's really my expertise.
Okay. Got it.
So
I love that. So that's what we do. That's why we're here.
We do things that others don't do, even within the fields we're in. And I mean, I think it's very important to get niche, even in something that's broad.
Yes.
And because then nobody's around you. And it's not just like a job security thing, but I think you become the foremost expert in that. And then you can teach it to others, which I do. And I know you have done and do as well. And my father, he's a professor, university professor. He always told me teaching is holy. And till this day, anytime I'm in front of people, I think through that I have people's time captive and their time is with me. So use it wisely. Don't just read to them. It's a holy experience, the whole thing. So
what a privilege.
Yeah. Absolutely.
I'm so happy we get to do this.
I know. How fun. All right.
All right. I think that's pretty much it.
Pretty much it. Yeah.